So before we get into this video, I would like to extend my most deep felt sympathies as well as well wishes to the friends and family of Neil de Beer, who was an incredible stalwart. Right, he stood up and fought when it was apartheid. He realized how bad and evil the system is, and he switched sides. And unlike a lot of the other people that have seen the rot and the evil within the ANC, but stayed. He saw it and he left, and he became one of the biggest critics of the ANC. Which, if for no other reason than that, you should at least praise the man for being principled and being willing to stand on said principle. He has passed away, and I wish everyone that knew him, everyone that loved him, just absolute peace. And Neil, thank you for everything that you have done. Now, on to the news. We have to talk about South Africa. You have seen the reports, you have seen the discussions. Many people have already made videos on this. The reason I have not covered the SWIFT or the potential for South Africa to lose access to the SWIFT system is because I've already covered it. About, I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks ago. I made a video talking about what South Africa's antics might wrought on the country should America decide to employ things like targeted sanctions, things like targeted tariffs on individuals. And I spoke about the potential loss of the SWIFT system in that video. So when new reports started to surface, I was just like, well, I already covered this. There's no point in doing so any further. I will say though that I've seen a lot of people talk about this topic, and some people have gotten it very, very right, and some people have gotten it less right. So let's just quickly talk about where the story comes from. This comes from after meetings that Enoch Godongwana had with banks of South Africa, where reportedly, apparently, he said that there is a potential risk of South Africa losing access to the SWIFT. He later clarified to the media, the South African Reserve Bank has since indicated that there is no impending risk of this happening, and if there were, it would likely be targeted at individuals rather than South Africa as a whole. This is important because I have said from the beginning, when you look at Donald Trump's focus of South Africa, you recognize very quickly that Donald Trump isn't going after the people of South Africa. Yes, tariffs are implemented and tariffs will cause a lot of pain, but it's because the ANC has, as of yet, refused to engage with America in good faith. Instead, we've sent our generals to Iran to go pledge military allegiance and alliances to the Iranian Royal Guard, who are a bunch of terrorists, right? So clearly, the South African government has no interest in dealing with the Americans in good faith. And so this has sparked the ire of America in terms of handing down very, very punishing tariffs. But we could easily have had those tariffs down to 10% or even 15%, which, with the weakness of our currency, would have been perfectly manageable. Our goods would still have come into America at a cheaper price because of how weak our currency actually is. But from the beginning, you look at Trump's politics, his antics, the way he's been operating, he clearly doesn't want to punish South African citizens. That's not the practice here, because it's not the South African citizenry that is irking America. It's the leadership, and very specifically the ANC. I believe in this case, this is actually the one thing that still saves us, is that the ANC is a democratically elected government. They have not yet cheated in elections. They have not yet taken full dictatorship or ownership of the country. And because of this, because there is always the possibility for other parties to challenge the ANC, what Donald Trump is trying to do is put enough pressure on South Africa to the point where the people will just vote out the ANC. I've said it from the beginning. I think that this is a regime change. Washington, D.C., and I think a lot of powers in the West are sick and tired of South Africa going hat in hand to the Western powers when they want money, but kicking the Western powers on every other sector of international conversation and trade, constantly wanting to undermine what the Western dominance actually is. And so the SWIFT system can be targeted at individuals, but it's not good, right? It's definitely not good. So if South Africa were to lose access to the SWIFT system as a whole, that would be really bad. Like really bad. The rand would pretty much tank overnight. You would see the rand depreciate most likely to around 25 to 30 rand to the US dollar, and that would literally just be in the immediate aftermath of this happening. It would probably go much higher than that. You would see entire businesses that are aimed mostly at exporting goods close down almost immediately. And the reason for it is now trying to sell to the rest of the world, they can't pay you and you can't pay them. So it becomes a complete, almost unworkable scenario, right? Where if you want to make those payments, it has to be done physically or it has to be done through back channels, which can take weeks, if not months, to actually get payments through. So it would kill pretty much every business that does any sort of exporting. And considering that the banking sector of South Africa is one of our largest sectors, and it's also one of the few sectors that's still going along swimmingly, being cut off from the SWIFT system would basically destroy the entire banking system of South Africa. So it would be very, very bad. For individuals, less bad, but still not great. The problem with individuals in South Africa, and I was just reading through the story earlier, you have the Mangaung government municipality in the Free State that has been found after a lengthy investigation to have paid inflated prices up to 1,500% to individuals connected to the government and also individuals in the government. People like this guy, for example, and you look at the numbers that they've charged here, it's insane. These people became millionaires as a result of all of the money that was exchanged. And for stuff that they actually checked with independent suppliers, and these independent suppliers would have charged a fraction of the money that the municipality ultimately ended up paying. So you can imagine if the governments of the United States were to start going after ANC individuals, they would also be going after the connected individuals. So you could very quickly see someone like Musuki Monkey be charged with sanctions and cut off from the SWIFT system. Anyone that has done business with Exhibit would also then suffer the same consequences. So you could very quickly see, and this is the problem with corruption, because it has spread so far and wide in South Africa, a lot of companies may actually be impacted in it. And I don't even want to know about all of the companies that are unofficially working with our government. But it's bad, right? It's really, really bad. Even if it is just for individuals, because everyone down chain of those individuals would also risk the same ire and the same loss of access. They end this with a warning from the Aluma Capital chief economist Frederick Mitchell that says the following: failing to do so could lead South Africa towards stagnation and stagflation, an outcome that no responsible leader or citizen should accept. And the only thing that I will disagree with here is this will not be the only reason South Africa will enter stagflation and stagnation. The problem that most people have when they look at the economy is people see something happen, and then when it doesn't immediately reflect in the economy, they go, oh, that must not have been that bad. I've already seen comments of people saying, well, the tariffs were on the 1st of August and the rand is doing better. It's not doing better. The dollar is just weaker. But the economy is still fine. Clearly, you guys were just completely overreacting. And what most people don't realize is economies take between 18 and 24 months to respond to a change in the environment. Economies are large, and it takes a long time for things to flow down the chain. For example, most of the goods that you will buy that are imported in South Africa, that you will buy, say, today, have been imported into South Africa months ago. They've already been sitting in warehouses, sometimes up to 6-7 months. For electronic goods, it can be even longer. So a lot of the goods that are currently in America have already been exported long before the tariffs came into effect. We will only start to feel the true effects of the tariffs when the summer harvests start to come in. And now these farmers are looking desperately for markets to offload their goods into, and the American market is closed because the goods are too expensive. That's when that will start to happen. Things like steel exports, things like mineral exports, if they're not excluded from the tariff system, that will only become relevant once the next shipments are made. And this can sometimes be once a year, twice a year. It doesn't have to be every single month, right? So economies take a long time to react. They also take a long time to recover because they're large and they move very, very slowly. I expect that we will see the full economic fallout start to represent itself in our economy within the next 6 to 7 months, but it will really start to show up at the end of next year. And then most likely leading into 2027, we will see a full-scale meltdown of the South African economy, the likes of which we haven't seen in a long time. That is my prediction. But let me know in the comment section down below what your predictions are for all of this. And please leave a rest in peace for Neil de Beer in the comment section down below. The man was a true warrior. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like what I do and you like the content that I make and you think more people should have access to the content that I make, I urge you to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and leave a comment because it truly does help. And I thank everyone that does this every single day on every single one of my videos. And then just a massive shout out and thank you to all of the patrons and the YouTube channel members for helping support this channel, keeping me going and allowing me to cover honest and rational news that sometimes doesn't get really awarded because it's not too clickbaity. As always, be good to each other, be kind to each other, and I will see all of you in the next one. Peace.